Boy, that escalated quickly.
Hello and welcome back to Roster Review. Now, we've got one hell of an episode today because you guys smashed it. Honestly, you absolutely smashed it. You gave me a bunch of rosters to review, so this episode's going to be a little longer, and it's also going to have a bunch of new graphics, new layout, even a new format. We might have to even do away with the tier list in this one because we're just so packed full of squads, and well, you'll see. It's going to be a fun one. Remember, as always, if you want your squads to be featured in this series, leave a comment down below telling me who you want to see. This show comes out every Sunday, and I try to get to as many squads as possible. My first squad of the day comes from Lingon, who has suggested one of the more interesting teams I think I've seen so far. This team is called, well, I've named the team the Mossad Crabs. If you've seen the movie The Gentleman, you'll know what I'm referring to. It's a team of Israeli players, and the players themselves are Anarchez, Flames, or Flame Z, or Flame Z, Spinks, Asylum, and Shushan. I'm going to be honest, I don't know the most about some of these guys, like Asylum and Shushan have never crossed my radar, but based on the research I did, I think Asylum is supposed to be the IGL on this team. And yeah, this immediately raises our first problem is, well, how skilled is this team? Some of these guys are getting on in age, and none of them have really played in the sort of top 10, top 20 teams. Anarchez is currently on Hellraisers, or most recently was on Hellraisers. They've not been the most impressive team, considering where they used to be, where they came from, as that sort of Eastern European mix. I'm not convinced. There are two bright spots, in my opinion. Flamesy and Spinks are both incredibly young, both very skilled, and are quite exciting. So if this team was assembled, I'd follow it just for them. Moving swiftly on to where I'd rate this lot. I would put them in give it 2 years. However, I'm not convinced that 2 years would really develop the team much because of Asylum, Shushan, and Anarchez being... I'll give Anarchez some credit. He is a pretty alright player. But Asylum, Shushan, I'm not sure if 2 years would really bring them up to the level you'd require to take them into that sort of tier. To make them a real competitor. So I'm going to put them in NACS. Up next, our now recurring member of this show, Asnayuki. Asnayuki has put together a team that they believe is underrated. As the tagline says, are they though? So the team is Rush, Valde, Rain, Floppy, and Jame. So Rush might be the closest thing to an underrated player on this team. He does a lot of unseen work, a lot of the leg work that allows Complexity to be as good as they are sometimes. I would argue that there have been moments in the last 6 months where Floppy has been overrated, if anything. Sure, the guy is good. He has a lot of potential, and if he was on a better team, maybe we'd see more. But he's definitely not been underrated, at least recently. I'm not here to critique Asnayuki's opinion on if someone's overrated, underrated. I'm here to talk about the team. So I like it. I do honestly like it. I'm a fan of Rain, especially more recently. He's been playing more supportive roles, and he's going to have to give up a lot of space on this team, obviously, to allow Floppy and Valda to click at the same time. And that's okay. Jame, as an in-game leader, as an AWPer, is always able to find massive amounts of impact, no matter how passively or slowly he walks around the map. And he's great at clutching, so he has that sort of X factor to him. So yeah, the team is very solid, and that's why in the tier list, or now in the grading system as we've kind of transitioned to, I would put this team at solid top 10. D-Train19 has put together a roster of players who are kind of on the dole. They're looking for work, and he's called it Help, I Can't Find an Org. On his roster, there is Flusher, Sunny, Esperanto, Lecro, and Woxic. Man, it's kind of fucked up to see such big names struggle to get signed. It's therefore no real surprise that those guys who used to be on MIBR are now just in the wilderness, struggling to find anyone to pick them up. These guys couldn't get signed, and they've played for some of the biggest orgs. A lot of them have won, some pretty impressive silverware. Sure, the only one that hasn't is maybe Esperanto, because, he's been in Tier 2 his entire career, but he's still an incredibly promising youngster. And what I love about the balance of this roster specifically is that you've got 3 guys who are all basically veteran presences, who are here to smooth out and get some consistency out of Esperanto and Woxic, who are going to be the superstars to really carry. As much as I like Sunny, I do think Flusher and Lecro are skill-wise kind of washed. They've not really had the most success recently in their teams. That really anchors this team, I think. However, they're not anchored too far down. They're not NACS worthy. That's why I'm scoring them on the tier list of meh. 10th to 20th. Next up, we have DJ BXYZ. If there's a way of pronouncing that as a single word, I'm sorry, but I'm never going to figure it out. He has given us his dream team. So it's Simple, Stewie2K, Glaive, Naf, and Nico. This team is quite obviously beast mode. Like, there is no two ways about it. This team has superstars, they have stars, they've got supportive elements, they've got a great in-game leader with a winning pedigree. There are very few weaknesses. You may have some issues with personality clash because Nico's a cunt, Simple's very demanding, and then, you know, Stewie always has this little input he wants to put in. But that's not really that big a deal. When you're playing on a team this good, you should be able to put that shit aside. This team goes straight into elite contenders. Up next, we have the Don of roster review, the man who has put forward more rosters than basically everyone else combined. He's the latest moderator of my Twitch stream. It is, of course, Mr. Zelinka. Now, he's put forward EG 2.0. Unfortunately for him, we've had some recent developments that might throw a spanner in the works, but still, Breezy, Cirque, Ethan, Obo, and Alex. So Ethan just got dropped / left. I think he left Evil Geniuses because he's moved on to Valorant. We'll pretend he hasn't, just for the sake of argument, and let's look at how this team would work. My first problem, fear, my doubt, is that Alex, at least on Cloud9, has been a questionable T-side caller. He's not really found a way to get the most out of his teams. And without a real veteran presence or like a ZWU level god player, I'm not sure this team will be able to make up for that. But they are more skilled than C9. They are way more skilled than C9. The question is, do they break into solid top 10? If there was a way for me to put this team in, like, give it 2 years and meh, I would. Because that's realistically what I think. They're a meh team, they're 10th to 20th, not really able to break into the top 10. However, with enough time with Obo developing, Cirque and Ethan continuing to develop, and Breezy being a consistent stud, this team would easily break into the top 10. For now, it's meh. More super teams now, as brand account name has thrown together a CIS super team. On his team, he has put Simple, Yekindar, Electronic, Chopper, and Sanji, and then he's put a 6th man option, and we'll call it Mir for now, but we're not really going to address that too much. So this team is more along the beast mode sort of route. It's absolutely monstrous. It's the kind of team that Na'Vi fans have wet dreams about. It's like, oh, if only we could get this kind of help for Simple. There's some ridiculous rifle talent. So much aggression, so much round-winning ability. Sanji is the ultimate support. There's no doubt about it. This team goes straight into elite contenders. Next squad comes from the Uber Geek, and he's had this idea to make the Economy Breakers. It's a very fun squad, but let me run down the list and you'll see why. So it's Simple, ZWU, Device, Searson, and Jame. So 5 AWPers. Obviously, to make it work, you'd immediately take Simple, ZWU, and Device off of the AWP. They are very competent riflers. I'd argue elite riflers, to be honest. Searson isn't, so you obviously leave him on the AWP. And then Jame, I've seen Jame rifle. Not the worst thing in the world, and he's calling on this team probably. Well, definitely he's the one calling. So he'll probably call his number a lot to make a double AWP setup. However, this isn't the fun of the team. So for shits and giggles, I'm going to pretend they all use the AWP 100% of the time. They would have the absolute streakiest CT side possible, where once they have their buyout and they get it to start rolling, you just can't go anywhere. But then they'd also lose a bunch of rounds because their economy would be smashed if they lost that first gun round. So it'd be a very coin flippy type thing. On the T side, they'd have the slowest T side ever. Now, you think it's bad now, Simple and James teams, and how slow they play. This will make it so much worse. So much worse. I don't think all the talent in the world can carry a playstyle like this. There's no way. You'd lose too many games like 16-1, 16-3 because you didn't win that one CT gun round the first time you bought. And your T side, you got very little in terms of dynamic trading ability. And that, unfortunately, leaves this team in NACS. For our 8th and penultimate squad, we have a squad from iRoll420s, who must be the dankest Dungeons & Dragons player. He's created the Banter squad. The squad is Richard Lewis, Thorin, me, Mezzy, and Smooya. Henry G is our owner, so of course he'd be willing to pay our salaries because, fuck it, he'll pay S-Tag a salary, why not us? So this is a god tier squad. Let's be real. There are more IQ points per player on this team than any ever assembled. I'm tempted, of course, to immediately smack this team straight into elite contenders, but there are 2 problems. You see, T, me, Richard Lewis, and Thorin, we're all clearly god tier geniuses who know everything about the game. Problem is, Mezzy and Smooya, I don't think they have the skill or the knowledge to really keep up with us. They're really holding us down. Therefore, thanks to those 2 terrible players who just couldn't keep up, this team's garbage. Finally, oh, thank the heavens, finally, we get onto a squad that comes from Twitter rather than the YouTube comments for once. This is from Lagit and Graviton as this kind of like combo as they slowly assembled this team through responses to tweets. I've called it More Danes because fuck it, why not? We've already had like 15 Danes in the top 10 for the last 6 to 8 months. Why not throw this lot in as well? It's an annoyingly good team. It's NATO Safix, Valder, Bubsky, LZtv, and Stown. The parts I like about this team from a personal point of view are NATO Safix finally gets to play on a real team because he's not really been on a contending team for any consistent period of time. He gets the occasional opportunity and he plays well, but he never gets to stay because he's always a stand-in, fill-in. God, I've been rooting for this guy for so long, and it'd be so nice to see him on a team like this where he could truly show his qualities. Outside of that, all the riflers are very good. LZtv's calling is the only non-Dane, and yeah, to rescue him and Valder from OG and put them onto this new squad would be pretty cool. Overall, I think this team's very good. I don't think this team breaks into elite contenders, but they definitely deserve to be put in the solid top 10 bracket. Alrighty, that's all the squads for this week. It's going to have to come out a bit later this episode thanks to the amount of work I've had to put in. But hey, it's all worth it. It's better quality video for everyone. If you want to see a squad in next week's episode, leave it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. Sub if you want to see more. And yeah, that's all for this one. Goodbye.